All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Eichbrett, and joined with the captain, Mr. Andy Full. And obviously, we have a third host with us today, Mr. Destin DeMarion.
Yeah. Also a captain.
Two captains.
Two
captains.
Captain sandwich. Perfect.
We got one captain that has some sunburn, one captain that's probably got some frostbite up there in New York.
It wasn't too cold today. I think it got up to 52. I saw at one point on my truck.
Not bad.
Well, the little Ellicott Creek that dumps into the Erie Canal, which ultimately dumps into the Upper Niagara, is completely ice-free. I actually thought about going and grabbing a trap and going back down and like slow dragging it, but not enough time. Here's what it is.
I don't know if we'll have enough time.
We didn't hit 55 today until like what, maybe 10, 11?
Maybe? Probably.
Something like that. But dude, we got first things first. Scott Klein in the chat. What's going on, dude? Scott is here like every single episode. It's a huge shout out to Scott. We just got back from Lake Fork. What do you want to call it? Storefront?
Let's go.
Home base?
Lake Fork Trophy Lures. That's where it is.
Yeah.
I've been trying to go every time I've been down here, which is not much, but it's been closed either like on a Sunday or whatever, which is good. But we finally went in. They weren't closed yet, and we got to meet Ronnie Parker, the owner, who is an awesome guy. So, Ronnie, thank you for giving us a tour and all the great hospitality. I mean, if you guys are down here, definitely stop by Lake Fork Trophy Lures. It is an awesome, awesome place. And Ronnie is like,
he's got stories for days. Yeah. He's got some cool stuff that he could share with you. So that was awesome to see that and experience that. So huge shout out to him. We just wanted to make sure we go over that because and speaking on Southern hospitality, I think I mentioned it to you like as soon as we met up down here is every single time, dude, I went to the ramp at Chickamauga, I had someone asking me if I wanted help like with the kayak. I don't think I've ever been asked once ever in New York. So Southern hospitality is a thing. 100% a thing.
Awesome. Yeah, New Yorkers will just sit there and laugh at you and drink another beer.
Yeah, like you.
You go too slow.
You need to tell my wife that she's from New York, so she doesn't like it when you say anything about New York like that.
I'm from New York. I can say that.
That's what I'm saying. You can say it. You can.
Like, we are the worst. Like, unless you're like in a club or fishing like a tournament and everybody knows what to do, like those are the only people that'll actually probably help it and help. So like Western New York, the club I'm in, the guys will actually like try and help everybody back down the boats and park.
That's really good.
That is good.
Honestly, like your group of guys, and just whenever I come up there and I'm just passing through and I fish a tournament or whatever with you, everybody's just like really awesome guys. Like it is a very good group of anglers there. They're just like nice guys. Everybody talks to everybody. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Western Park is a good group of dudes. There's some cutthroat some cutthroat clubs out there in Western New York. Definitely not one of them. But real quick,
there's good anglers, but everybody's nice to each other.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I remember when Andy and I did that Niagara River tournament, and he's like joking around with every single person.
Andy knows everyone.
Andy does know
everyone everywhere, which is awesome.
Real quick, there's a comment in here from John Mango. That's kind of I'm actually really jealous of that last name. If that is your last name, Mango
or Mang Zero.
Mango. But he just talked about the Alex Rudd video that he just dropped with a 40-pound bag and a 10.5 pounder. So quick shout out, go watch that. That was a fun day, and that was wild.
That looked pretty sweet.
Except for that one guy, Justin Warner, another Western New York guy. Yeah, Justin's probably the only one you got to stay away from. That guy's not only a scrub, but jabroni.
You gotta tell him that little story.
Oh, I have.
No, I mean, you've told this on here.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I don't even know if I remember it.
All right, so I'll go back into it. So I don't remember if it was Jeff was going to fish a tournament or Justin. I ended up hooking Jeff and Justin for a derby. And he goes, he isn't a jamoke, is he? I was like, oh, yes. Quite
Just kidding. Speaking of guides, though, Justin just became a guide as well, and
yeah, we took the class together. So
yeah, Justin is not a scrub. That was a joke. Tech tips for the ACT seminar tonight. No tips if you're talking about the ACTs, like high school course.
Yeah, they're like the
I never
SAT,
ACT.
ACT was like Midwest. A lot of people took it, I think.
I took the I took the SAT.
I took both, but the ACT is more for like Midwest schools, from what I remember.
Yeah.
So, little side note: I didn't take my ACT or SATs. So
That's
out of high school.
How'd you do that?
I was supposed to go into the Air Force, and I was going to be in Special Forces. I tore my ACL in my knee, so I never left. And then I fought my way through my 20s and 30s.
So you and Mike would have known each other beforehand if you
probably.
Air Force Andy.
Yeah,
I never knew that, dude.
You wouldn't be a captain; you'd be a pilot.
Yes. So I was going. The ultimate goal, I was going to be a police officer in the Air Force, and then I was going to attempt to get into Special Forces. I signed, I think, at the time, like a 6-year contract, and I got hurt. The pencil for the co-angler side, Jeff.
No, Jeff's gonna have his own podcast special.
Oh, I got my pencil already.
Jeff, I know you're tuning in, dude. Your time is coming soon. We're getting you on the show, and that's gonna be a night in itself. So you took the ACLs, got them.
The ACLs, that's a good one.
But real quick,
both of our careers have been altered. Our lives have altered by torn ACLs.
Yeah. You have a torn shoulder as we speak, right?
Yeah, I just don't talk about it.
Oh, that's painful.
I've had a torn rotator for like 10 years. When I was going to get that fixed, I tore my ACL.
Yeah,
so
I think we've chatted about that. So,
yeah.
So it's funny. Mine started as a wrestling injury. I dropped a guy on my knee. I don't remember the name of this. I think it's called like a John Smith or something. It's like a pump move. So you lift the guy up and you dump him. And I dumped him right into my left knee, and my knee went like this sideways. Wrestling 215 pounds, weighing 181. So just to get the guy to that point was quite a miracle. But yeah, my knee went like this underneath me.
Good grief.
Yeah, wrapped it up wrestling
this week.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it, man.
Scott Klein says, when can I come on the show? I think maybe what we could do, Andy, for episode 200 is have a bunch of different guests on. So if people want to come on for episode 200, reach out and maybe we'll just have a bunch of different people.
Episode 200 story time with guests.
Yeah, dude, that'd be cool. We can have a serious dangler episode for episode 200.
Fun.
Yeah.
Bailey had some serious dangler moments today.
A lot of them.
I'm sure
I
got
hung up a lot.
How many backlashes? That's how it sounds like.
I don't think metal.
We both started off with backlashes, and I just hung up like
no backlash. Professional overruns. Let's be real.
I had a knot in my line.
Yeah. So real quick, let's get this out of the way because I know it's going to be brought up at some point. So Destin spanked me today, obviously. Destin, you probably caught what, 5-6 fish?
More than that.
More than that? Okay. Maybe I was just not paying attention. You just catch them in my face.
I caught 4 at the end of the day.
Nice.
See, it's kind of a blur. It just kind of goes over your head when you're not catching anything. I had one bite at the beginning of the day and then gone. Yep. Serious tangler. Yeah, that's what I was today. Not good at all. But today we have something kind of cool. We're going to talk about Co-Angler 101, kind of like the ins and outs, everything you need to know when it comes to being a co-angler. And I feel like, I've seen Bradley Hallman do some cool stuff when it comes to co-angling. He's got some good videos out there, but for the most part, I don't think there's a lot of resources out there for when people are looking into becoming a co-angler or trying that experience. And, some people probably just jump right into it. Some people are fortunate to have friends like getting into it like I did when I was getting into it last year, talking to you, talking to Andy, of like, hey, what is like the big no-nos? Like bring gas money and such things along those lines, which we'll get into tonight. So I think this will be good for that. But I think just to kind of start, is there kind of like a basic knowledge that everyone needs to know, like to kind of get into it? Is there kind of like an outline?
Yeah, I think a lot of people come from different skill levels at a co-angler level, obviously. So you've got guys that maybe have never fished a tournament up to guys that could probably compete with, the pro level guys. So yeah, right. But so you've definitely got like a lot of different experiences with these guys, but there is like some common things I would definitely say that everyone should know going in. Because I mean, when you are very green coming in, it can be a problem, with your boater, with your pro at times if you don't know, a few basic just etiquette things, which most co-anglers that are more experienced do know that. Maybe some don't necessarily practice it, but it is understood by most people that have done it for a while. So starting out, like somebody who's really, really green to it, I would say, obviously, you want to bring gas money for the day. So you want to share your gas oil expenses for the day. If they're going to make a super long run from Plattsburgh to Ticonderoga, you're not responsible for that necessarily. But, $40, $50, maybe $60 is pretty standard. I would say at least 40 if not like a small lake where you barely ran any. I mean, maybe $20 or something like that. If a local club, if you're just running a small lake, $20 is probably fine. But in the higher level tournaments, even the BFL, the Toyota, or is it still Toyota? No, it's Toyota Series, right?
Series, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Toyota Series, the Opens. I mean, $40 to $60 when they had the FLW Tour, still had co-anglers, $40 to $60. So that's one thing that every co-angler should definitely understand, because it is a very awkward situation. If you do not understand that, at the end of the day, your pro's going to be like, what the heck? Your boater is going to be like, wow, that guy stunk. I've heard a lot of people say that kind of stuff. So that's just not a good way to, start your angling career per se. It's just kind of a respect thing, and it's just an understood, unwritten rule to some extent.
Well, yeah, because your boater's got a lot more money invested.
Right. And I mean, you're essentially out there to go have fun, also compete, but you're in that other person's boat. So it is just a common courtesy to help share in some of the expenses. What did I say?
Best I can do is $20
$20 and a high five. Yeah, there's a lot of co-anglers that I think have had that mindset. I don't think people like them very much. Zach
quick shout out to Zach, because he just got another top 10 at Hobie BOS. They're coming out with the OI standings here soon, but my money, Zach's going to be in that top 3 for the run. So kudos to you, Zach. Good job, buddy. And Zach's actually down here. We could have even gotten him on the show tonight, but Zach's down here for Lake Fork this weekend.
There's plenty of people that can be guests right now.
Dude, we have Taco Ito next door to us that we could get. I don't think he's back still.
Yeah, I haven't heard his truck, but
if he comes
Ronnie
by,
Kelly lives here.
Yeah.
Captain Ron, who was just on the podcast. We were going to get dinner one of these nights. But
Sprague.
Jeff Sprague, yes, good friend.
Could have had Ronnie Parker. We could have
Ronnie Parker
back with us.
We should have had the podcast at his shop with all the other people that
pull him on.
That would have been good.
Yeah. Pake, the younger kid that caught the 12-pounder that was in Bassmaster, and when they turned it, like they could all been on the live.
Tim Maynard, do you always give your buddy $50 and cook breakfast? Wow.
You want to
Co of the year.
You are the co-angler of the year. You are everything a co-angler should be.
So you should bring his buddy heater and everything and cook on the
boat?
Okay.
Yes. Bring a heater if it's cold to make sure the boater can warm his hands and you can warm your hands. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to do that stuff. That's really nice.
Yeah. Isn't there like an unwritten rule? Actually, there might actually be a written rule of how many rods that you can bring.
Yeah, I think in Bass and MLF, FLW, whatever it is now, there's like a guidelines for how many rods you can bring. It's generally like 6 to 8, I think, in most of the tournament organizations. So, yeah, so obviously you want to understand that if you're just coming into it. Another thing, try to travel light. Try not to pack, 20 different bags and bring really heavy tackle bags. In your boat, you're strapped as a boater or a pro. You're strapped for space as it is. So it's hard to find more space for that. Although most organizations, you need to provide an area, a designated area to put stuff, but it's just a helpful common courtesy too, just not to overload. Bring what is absolutely necessary for the day, nothing more, nothing less. Just try not to do anything more than that.
I've heard
Those are the main ones, really. Oh yeah,
like 4 duffel bags worth of stuff, and
bringing some bricks or something. I don't know what's in there.
I feel like I'm like the perfect co-angler because I come with a drawstring baggie. Like I pack everything into like gallon Ziploc bags and shove them in there because I want to take up as little space as possible.
Exactly.
When I fish as a
or
co.
just use my stuff.
Yeah.
Which some guys will say that. Some guys will say that.
So I mean, if you have a good friend like Destin and you fish a big money tournament and you leave all of your terminal tackle at home 2 days in a row, you just go into his compartment and start taking stuff.
I'm just like, just use whatever. But that's like how we all of us operate. If you're fishing with another guy's boat, you're like, you don't need to bring much. Just you can use my stuff. It's all good.
Yeah, I forgot a bunch of stuff today.
Yeah, and Bailey was ripping into my Mega Bass 110s for gosh sakes and getting them snagged.
I got one of his 110s hung up probably 6 or 7 times.
Yeah,
hey up, buddy.
No, he didn't lose it.
I didn't lose it.
Oh, that's good.
But I mean, that'll make you your heart beat a little bit faster when your Mega Bass is.
I was going to go
snagged
swimming for that thing. Yeah. John Welsh said, "Do you bring your own call tags?"
Yes.
Most definitely bring your own call tags.
And most of them tell you to. Like I think they have BFLs and stuff. They do that where you can cast. Okay, so some of the organizations, there is some gray here, and I'm going to say what the unwritten rule is, and the most respectful thing is. You kind of draw a line in the middle of the boat, and you cast, and you fish in the back, and the pro fishes in the front, or the boater fishes in the front. However, sometimes, including myself and other guys, will be like, "Hey, man, like the way I'm fishing is fast. You can cast a little bit ahead because I'm gonna be moving, so you can cast a little bit ahead, so you're not just like pulling a bait behind the boat the whole time." Right. But that's also something you could ask, or they're generally going to be like, "Hey, man, you can cast up ahead of you," because they're going to see a lot of people. They're going to see that you're respecting the boundaries and stuff, and just give you more to fish. Mm-hmm. Honestly, from my experience being a co-angler, I was always very respectful about that. And a lot of times, guys are like, "Dude, just cast right up here, man. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, so as long as it was in their direction.
Right, exactly.
And I think the biggest thing is communicating that like early.
Exactly.
Like, as soon as you see them, being like, "Hey, man, do you mind if I cast around here?" Or whoever's initiating it. But communication about that's key.
I had one time when I was in an open, I skipped under a dock. I rolled the fish. I was fixing my bait. I heard thrashing. The guy threw over my shoulder. And he pulled the fish out of the dock, and that's what cost me making a check in that tournament. So that was very frustrating. But honestly, almost every experience I've had having co-anglers and being a co-angler, which I did for a long time, were great. I mean, most of the guys are really, really good dudes on both sides, and it's what you make of it, really. And I think that's a huge part of it is the mindset going in. So, I can fish better than these guys. They're not giving me anything to fish. Well, understand the situation. You're there to learn. You're there to have fun and take your shots. I mean, you just be cognizant of where guys are casting. So if they left something, then take your opportunity, to catch a fish or hit a spot that they did not hit. You just got to be very opportunistic and not throwing over people's shoulders, but you just be aware of like what's going on. And just be very open to just changing and throwing different baits and doing, not fishing their tournament, fishing your tournament.
Yeah. I think another point brought up from Charles Blood said, never ask to use a bait that your boat is catching them on. But I think from a fishing standpoint, generally you really don't want to be throwing the same exact thing your boat is throwing.
For the most part. I mean, there's certain situations, if you're dropping on smallmouth or something, just a lot of times there's like a bait that's just working. So like sometimes that can be a thing, but most of the time, no, you do not want to be doing that. Mm-hmm. If they're flipping, you're finessing behind and you're picking up fish that wouldn't have bit that presentation a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times when you're in open, you're fishing for 3 fish. So you could just, go for broke and just fish for big fish. just fish for 3 big bites behind the guy and do something crazy too, because you only need 3 bites in the whole day.
Right.
It's a strategy thing. It depends on where you're at. Sometimes that's not very probable, like a logical thing to do.
Right.
Yeah.
But it can be a good way to have success as a co-angler.
Yeah. Well, we had Brian New on, and a while ago I had Chad Smith on, who's now as a pro, but he was as a co-angler in the opens. And one thing they both mentioned was you can throw kind of the same presentation that your boater's throwing, but sometimes you got to realize that sometimes your boater's not making a certain cast, or making casts that they're not taking, if that makes any sense. So putting a bait in a different area that your boater's not
That's
focusing.
what I was saying. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So like Brian New and I were both fishing as co-anglers, mostly on different circuits at the same period of time, because we're the same age. So we were both doing that. He was traveling with like Brian Thrift and learning from him and doing the tour, and also like some Toyotas. I was mostly doing opens. I did like BFLs, and then I did some Toyotas and stuff like that as well. And I fished like 2 tour events just randomly one year. But it's a great way to learn. Like I didn't have like one person that like was a mentor. I had like a handful of guys that I would like travel with and try to practice with different people to learn way different approaches to doing things. And it was really helpful in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. And you went down, you mentioned, I think today as well, as how you like went down to, wasn't the Southern Centrals you said that you went out?
All of those.
Yeah, and you went out and fished as a co-angler to experience those waters.
I did, yeah, because they're so
even
much different than like everything we have at home. I fished the Central Opens one year, and it was awesome. I practiced with Stephen Browning, who ended up winning one that year, and I mean I got to learn a lot of stuff.
Right.
Super great dude. So I practiced with him. I practiced with Kurt Dove at Amistad when we were there.
Wow.
I had a guy the first day. My pro broke his rib, so I didn't get to fish the first day. I drove us back. He ended up breaking his rib.
Oh my gosh.
But at the Red River, I fished the Red River, the Arkansas River, did really well at both of those events. I was in second place at Arkansas River going the final day. And I mean, I learned a ton in those, just doing that. I'm sure we're going to fish some of these places down the road. And I'd never even fished in Texas before. And we came to Fork last year. And like just all of that, it's just a combination of all that learning helps a lot. And fishing the Southerns, I never fished down south. I fished Southern Opens the first year and did really well. And just more so, it was just learning. It was awesome.
More as like I shouldn't say an excuse because that's a bad way to say it, but a way to get out on the water with someone who knows it, to experience more the location and that body of water rather than try to go out and win an event. If that makes sense. So you're doing these other opens. Obviously, you want to win, but you're doing these other opens to learn the body of water without trying to go and learn it yourself.
Yeah, it's a great way to
accelerate a learning curve in a certain.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mentor thing, but instead of having one mentor, you have dozens.
Right.
Dozens.
Just being around that community of an open.
Right. And you meet like a bunch of cool people, co-anglers and boaters and pros. Like it's just a great community when you get into that and you get into those multi-day events too. It's really fun because then you're going to get to fish with multiple people and see how people break things down differently. And then, I mean, you already got your own style, and you'll know when it's your time to go from a co-angler to a boater if you really are truthful and honest with yourself.
Right. Yeah. A lot of self-check needs to happen.
You got to check your ego and understand, like, all right, like, I'm still a co-angler, or you know what? Most of my boaters saying, "Why are you fishing as a co-angler?" Okay, I should probably fish as a boater. Yeah.
Yeah, like for me, for instance, 2021. So in 2040, I might be somewhat ready to try as a pro. Maybe
2040.
I'm breaking trees.
2040.
But so one thing really quick that I failed to mention at the beginning of the show is, again, Monday Night Live. Every Monday Night Live, we give away 2 bags of Outdoorsman coffee. And this is, Andy, this is going to be my vote for tonight coming up here, this question. To win, I'm going to obviously state the question, but John Welsh, you have won a bag of OCC coffee for this question. And that is netting fish for them. Is there a class? But also, if you don't can't ask to use their bait, what if they ask to use yours?
That's a very good question, and that's a situation I've seen for sure. I'd say in most situations with the open, so that's what I fish mostly.
Mm-hmm.
We could use nets, so yes, I would always help them. And it is like there's not a consistency among co-anglers and pros for netting fish, so that's kind of like a variable that's uncontrollable to some extent. But really, I wish people would spend some time learning how to net fish and being prepared for that too. But most of the time, you want to bring your fish and bring the head up, or you have bear paws like Andy. You want to bring the fish and get the head up near the boat. And when that head's up, that's when you scoop underneath the fish. And you
Never
scoop.
try to go tail.
You don't stab. You scoop underneath the fish and you scoop up. You don't just put the net in and just hope it stays in and keep it there. You scoop up and put it in the boat. Because a lot of times, I mean, I've seen it myself and other people, like someone will net your fish, but they don't pick it up. And then it gets stuck in the net or something. The hook does, and they pop up and get out of the net.
Just leave it in the water.
Yeah, and I've seen that. And other people have mentioned that too.
Yeah.
Oh, like a jerk bait, and they got the tail hook, and they go to swipe at them, and they grab the jerk bait and pull. Yeah. And now the fish is off, and all you have is a jerk bait.
And that's a very uncomfortable situation for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
For both of you. But in the opens, you can't use a net. You can only use your hands. So most of the time, you're going to do it yourself. And you should, because that's not fair unless the person's like, hey, really, man, I'll get it. Don't worry about it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the only situation. But most of the time, just don't do it because then there's no, it's not a weird situation. It's not on them.
You're putting your own success on yourself rather than on somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if there's too many people I would trust bellying a fish for me.
Yeah,
so a lot of them they got to be from the north to have the hands to do it.
Bear paws.
Yeah. But I might be one of two people maybe that you would let belly a fish for you, Destin.
Oh, I would definitely of course you are. Yeah, I would say
mouth. Yeah.
Probably one of two.
Maybe Jeff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm trying to think of. I had a point after that. It's coming to me.
Andy bear paws like 3 6-pounders in one day.
In like 20-degree air temperature, 40-degree water. Gets back up, keeps casting. He's fine.
That's funny. I was like, God, Justin's like, what are you doing? I'm like, that's a seven.
Hands, I can't even like bend them.
Like rub my hands, and Destin's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got you ready. It's a 7-pounder.
I'll just try not to like laugh at that moment, just to stay focused. But I'm laughing.
I think the best part was when Mike and I drove by. Andy doesn't even say hello. He just goes like that as we're driving by, like the bear paws. This is the weirdest.
Let me finish. I don't think I finished the whole question, Tim.
Sorry,
the bait side.
So the bait, yes. Usually, if your guy's catching them or something, be like, I don't know if it's necessarily okay to ask. A lot of times when I was a co-angler, if they were catching them that good or something, it'd be like, hey, do you want one of these? After they'd already done the damage, like, yeah, okay, I'll try one. If they're asking you for yours too, it's totally up to you on either side of it. Because if you're catching them and then you're giving it to them and they're going to catch that fish in front of you that you would have caught, I mean, that's something you got to evaluate too. But most of the time, I wouldn't, when I was a co-angler, I wasn't going to deny somebody like, hey, you can't use this bait. Like there's been multiple situations where I gave them my bait, but I'd already done really well with it, and I wanted them to do well too.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. And I've been on the co side, and I mean, only the 2 years I've been as a co, I've had it where a guy's asked me what I'm using. He's not asking me to use the bait, but he asked me what I'm using because I was catching fish, and he asked me to use his own stuff, which is
and there's no
fine.
problem.
No,
with that,
I mean,
I don't think.
And you're not going to be sneaky on the back of a boat and be like, and try to like hide it. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
Right.
But I've also had it where like a guy's asked me for some baits because he didn't have any. And it was more of he took me to his spot where fish were at, put me on fish. And basically what bait I had was catching bigger fish than what he was using. So, and I had an excess of it. So I had no problem because it was on his spot. He took me to it. And now he's a good buddy. We're actually staying with him. And then this summer, Mr. Dean Meckes.
Yes, a friend of mine.
Yeah. Mr. D. Mekis. That was awesome. But it's I think, like, again, it goes back to communication. I think that's really all it is.
It is, absolutely. And that's with anything too. Just communicating is just going to make everything go a lot more smoothly.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just don't be afraid to ask questions, because I think for the majority, 99% of the time, no one's going to care if it's your first time.
I can promise you, if you ask me, I'm never going to be bothered by you asking me questions.
Yeah. I'll say the guy I went with, my first time ever was in a BFL. He was like super pumped that it was my first time as a co-angler. And he was like, throughout the day, like, just teach me like different things and we're talking the whole day, and kind of like you're fishing with a buddy, obviously just two different sides of the boat, and kind of just helping you along. Most guys don't care, just ask questions. I mean, I'm sure that at the open level, it's probably a little bit different. You probably don't want to ask him questions all day long because he probably won't focus. But I think, while you're waiting around to launch and stuff, get your questions in, talk to them, and I don't think they're going to have any problem with that whatsoever.
Most guys won't. Like I said, it's a pretty good community of guys that fish these tournaments.
Yeah.
So you should have a good experience. And it is what you make of it. Just be respectful on both sides, and it's going to be a much better experience for both of you, regardless if you're catching fish or not. Just take it as it's a good learning experience, and you're getting to go fishing. I mean, ultimately, that's what we want to do. We want to be out fishing, and that's what we all love to do. That's why you're watching this podcast. That's why, we're here in Texas right now, is because we love fishing. And just remember that at the end of the day, even if you didn't catch a bunch of fish, or it didn't go your way, or you broke off this fish or whatever, hey, don't talk about that. I don't think that's ever productive. At least not publicly. You can talk to your friend and tell them exactly what happened or whatever, but try not to whine about stuff, and try to be positive, and everything just goes a lot better.
Yeah, mental outlook, which is something I'm really trying to work on, and obviously you've been a huge help with that. And it's like just trying to stay positive and getting negative whatsoever throughout your day isn't going to help you whatsoever. Randy, give your boater some Bitcoin for gas money.
You can pay me Dogecoin.
Dogecoin.
Yeah, I want 1 Bitcoin every time I take somebody fishing. Just 1. That's all I'll ask. If it's 30,000 or 70, I'm in.
You're right.
Yeah, Tim, I think it is one of the best communities. I think as long as you keep a positive outlook on everything, and obviously look at the bright side of things, 100%.
I think that's really hard for a lot of people, is to maintain like a positive mental attitude, because as a co-angler, they want to go out and like light the world on fire and catch as many fish as possible. And ultimately, the only time you might have a shot at doing that is when you're dropping on them like a spotted bass fishery or a smallmouth fishery, because you ultimately have the advantage per se. But when you're largemouth fishing and fishing grass, the boater has 100% the advantage, because you can line up the boat perfectly. So you almost have to fish different water while fishing the same water, if that makes sense, and just stay positive, because you only need 3 bites in those opens. And if you get 3 bites, you're golden. Most of those guys catch 1 or 2 fish.
Yeah, so if they're fishing a structure related, like it is say it's a rock pile, and they point the front of their boat at that rock pile, like obviously what they call it now, like backboating. Like it's hard to obviously catch fish that way, but
don't buy into that.
Yeah,
it's not a real thing.
You're still going to catch fish. It's just more of you need to have some patience.
Exactly.
There's going to be fish. Like obviously, if it's a structure, if it's a spot related thing, there's fish. They got to get there somehow and go from there somehow. So
especially if like your pro leaves his graphs on, and like let's say side scan is running, you can almost look around the boat and see what there is. So use everything to your advantage.
Great point, man. That is really
definitely. Yeah,
100%.
Definitely not afraid to look around their legs to see their graphs up front either.
So there was many a time my guy left his back graph on, and I'd be like, drop right below the motor and be catching fish like video gaming behind.
Heck yeah.
I caught 20 pounds of Erie one time before I think the guy made a cast. We stopped at the first spot. I dropped first one, dropped again, got another one. It was crazy.
And he's like, what the heck?
I
mean, you almost have to take advantage of your situation. I can't tell you how many times since I've transitioned to like the boater side, the co-angler on my boat will just make like a phantom cast out in the middle of nowhere and catch the biggest fish of the day. And it's like, what are you doing? Then you look on your graph and like, oh, there's a rock pile over there I completely missed because I'm so in tune. And you just made a random cast and you can figure out what it is. So don't be afraid to fish different water as a co. It will help you.
Yeah, that goes back to like making the cast that your boater's not. 100%.
Absolutely.
And John, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. Make sure you reach out to us, get us your contact info, and we'll get you that bag of coffee sent to you. But he has another question specifically for you, Destin.
Okay. I was looking at that. It looks like a good question too.
Your top 3 swing for the fence baits. So if you're starting a box or sack company, call it the Co-Angler Swing Box.
Co-Angler Swing. Brought to you by Mystery Tackle Box, Catch Co. No, just kidding. I think I actually wrote an article about this when I was a co-angler. I think it was either Mystery Tackle Box or
Didn't you just
Fishing
have
the
an
Back.
article with Bassmaster Tackle Box?
That was lure lock thing.
Yeah, but
not lure lock thing, but yeah.
Fences as a co-angler, and like I wrote an article about that. It was either on Mystery Tackle Box or it was on Fishing the Back, which was an awesome co-angling website and blog.
I don't even know that was a thing.
Yeah. He did away with it now. His name was Ethan Duvetter. He was from Kansas State fishing team. He started that. It was a really cool website. A lot of people were really into it at the time because a lot of co-anglers and stuff. But for the swing for your fences bait, so number 1, swim bait. That was my number 1 swing for the fence. A top water, I'd say for me, most of the time it was a frog for swinging for the fence, depending on the situation. And the other one would be a chatterbait. So these are all big fish, big bite presentations. Mm-hmm. So almost every top 10, excluding like, the finesse smallmouth stuff, I got a top 10 on all of those. Whether it was a spotted bass fishery, a largemouth, a smallmouth, all the top 10s were on those.
So like kind of just quickly specify, like when you're talking swim bait, because some people have like a wide array of.
Yeah. So it
like
just
a hollow belly or a kayak.
Yeah, so this depends on the fishery. My first top 10 in the opens was at Logan Martin. I'd never been there in my life. I don't think I ever caught a spotted bass, but I thought they would act like smallmouth. And my bait selection was very much lined up with what my understanding of smallmouth was. I caught them on a Gambler easy swimmer, not the big easy, the easy swimmer, on like a 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce jig head, deep, just slow rolling it behind guys, and I'd crack like a 4-pound spot, and he'd be like behind the boat and stuff. Or they'd be fishing a brush pile and finessing it, and we'd get past, and I'd throw it back in the brush pile and catch a good spot on a swim bait or something like that. So a lot of times it's just catered on that. So if you were guys fishing a dock and he's skipping a jig or something, maybe throw a big mag draft next to the dock, and you might pop one big one that's going to carry you in that situation. So, and then smallmouth and spotted bass, they're just smaller. They have smaller mouths, so you're not going to generally hook them as well on an 8-inch swim bait or something like that. So it's just all predicated on the fishery that you're at. And then top water obviously catches the big ones, whether it's a walking bait, a buzz bait, a whopper plopper, a frog. And a frog was one I did a lot of damage on. At Champlain, I made a top 10. At Potomac multiple times, I made top 10s on frogs. So like a frog gets big bites. People are throwing Senkos around. It's a great way to catch fish, and sometimes you catch big ones. But a lot of times in those same situations, when I threw a frog, I would get bigger bites.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
And then the other one was chatterbait. Chatterbait, like a swim jig, or they're just big fish baits. Mm-hmm. Chatterbait will catch, and you can sling a chatterbait around behind somebody and still catch fish. I mean, I fished with an FLW tour guy at a place where he's getting first crack, and I've still made top 10s on a chatterbait behind somebody because Jeff likes frogs. Yes, he does.
The Duke.
Jeff loves frogs. And when I was a co-angler, a lot of times I'd practice with Jeff. So we'd be out there blasting them on a frog at Champlain, Potomac, and like those kind of places, and just having a ball. But I mean, I saw Jeff catch like a 6.5 pounder at Potomac, which is gigantic on a frog. And I mean, it's just a big fish bait. A chatterbait is just a great way to cover water and catch big fish behind somebody. A lot of times, even if they're throwing chatterbait, you just change it up, change the trailer, you change the speed, you change the weight to adjust how it's coming in the water column. I mean, there's just little things you can do behind somebody. Even if you are throwing the same thing, you can catch the fish that they're fishing for, or not fishing for because they're not specifically targeting with similar type power presentation.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Let's see, we had another question up here real quick, but I think I want to touch on this really fast before we go back to that question from Chris Birch. He mentioned how does anyone fish a tournament and not swing for the fence? And this was something I thought as well, and I still do agree with it to an extent, is how if you're fishing a tournament, why are you not going for the win, depending on the type of circuit? But I think, like I said, I think it depends. If you're in like an Angler of the Year race, correct, or like say in your case, you're trying to make a classic, right, points go a long way. So if sometimes when you swing for the fence, quote unquote, going for that win, going for bigger fish, sometimes you might blank, whereas you could pick up, say, a Senko, something, get some fish where you're not going to win, but get some fish to salvage points to go for a higher goal.
Yes.
Do you agree?
I do. I think, okay, so does anyone fish tournament not swing for fence? Yeah, and exactly what Bailey said, in a point situation, most guys on the Elite Series and FLW, we're fishing to do the absolute best that we can, but that doesn't mean that you found anything that will win the tournament. So you've got to literally maximize the best pattern and the best things that you have, which I wouldn't say categorized would fall under swinging for the fence. To me, swinging for the fence is I found one spot that may or may not work, or one pattern that may or may not work, and just sticking with it and like going down guns a-blazing or winning by 10 pounds. That's swinging for the fence to me.
That's crazy. 2 pound, 14 ounce. That was me at Cayuga for the Fed last summer.
All the more reason.
That's exactly what I had
to not get bad shape. I'm not catching anything. One bite in the tournament like that, one bite behind somebody can make everything. There's been a lot of tournaments where I was a co-angler freezing my butt off at Douglas Lake when it was like 30 degrees, freezing rain. The guy got hypothermia and stuff. I got like 2 bites and I was in like, I don't know, top 20 or something.
Yeah, you never know. You really never know. But
just got to keep your head in it and just keep going. I mean, it doesn't always work out, believe me. It doesn't. But it's not going to work out even more so if you're negative about it.
Yeah. Don't spin out. I guess the common denominator is don't try your dangest not to spin out. Because as soon as you spin out, everything's going to go wrong. Your next cast is going to backlash. And the rod that you were using now is kaput. You might throw your rod into the water on accident. You never know what's going to happen if you're angry.
Brings more negative. Positive brings more positive. Mm-hmm.
I guess don't get to a point where you smash a rod off the gunnel of your boat because you lost the fish. Never do that.
But yeah, going back to Birch's point though, like if you're fishing like a local club, like an open or something like that, you're jackpotting. Yeah, I mean, why would you not go for the win?
Right.
But here's something from you're gonna say something.
I think you're always going to win, but there's times when you understand that like you're not on it. You're not on something to win unless you figure it out during the tournament.
Let's survive.
Survive too. I try not to think about it like that because that is like almost a negative too. Because I've thought about that too. And I'm like, no, you don't want to survive. You want to do the absolute best that you can. And sometimes it's going to win. Sometimes it's going to get you in 70th place. I mean, that's just – but at the end of the day, if you made all the right decisions that you felt were the right ones and you didn't hold back, there's absolutely nothing that you should be disappointed with.
Yeah. Right. I think your guys' point about not spinning out, having a positive outlook can probably be the answer to this question here from Charles Blood, where he said, in your opinion, what's the worst thing you can do as a co-angler? And that's spinning out. Having a negative.
Get in your own head. That's the last thing you want to do.
Backboated. It's somebody else's fault. Being a victim. I think being a victim in any situation. I mean, there is situations where you are a victim, but that's not one of them. Like, there's very few situations I believe that you're actually a victim. Mm-hmm. So just having a victim mentality doesn't help you in any facet of life for the most part. Even if you were a true victim to something, taking the victim role is only going to further perpetuate that mindset and not allow you to be strong from it at the end of it.
Like, you can almost take it to a point if you're going to sit there and complain and complain and complain. Now you're going to get a bad rep from another pro that you possibly could draw, and they're going to be like, oh gosh, this guy's going to complain all day. And next thing you know, that guy is purposely I'm not saying that they would on purpose, but in his mind, he'd be like, you know what, I'm going to back off this dock even further to make it even harder for him because I know he's just going to complain no matter what I do. So
it happens.
Yeah.
Exactly how you said.
Yeah. And here's my outlook on co-angling. Like, you're reasoning to be a co-angler. Feel free, both of you, to disagree. Feel free in the comments to disagree. If you're going into a tournament as a co-angler to simply just win money, I think you're doing it for all the wrong reasons.
I agree.
I think your biggest reason is, obviously you always want to win, and obviously we've gone over that for the past 10 minutes. But I think your biggest reason to be a co-angler is the opportunity to get on a boat with somebody else and learn something to make you better on the water. Mm-hmm. I think just from a money standpoint, you're not. I wouldn't be a co-angler if you're trying to make money.
You're attempting to be a student of the game.
Yeah, I mean, and you could probably even agree, and I've heard that point being made before. Even as a pro, say on the opens, if you're in it to make money, you're in it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, that's why I was smiling. I was thinking the same thing, right? Totally. I mean, the year I made the elites, I cashed a check in every tournament at like a 20th average finish. I still made $13,500. The entry fees and the expenses, I might have made $5,000 if you're adding that up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And most people don't ever do that. Like, that was just a really good year for me. You know what I mean? So, like, it's very rare that you're going to go to the opens and make money. And I think a lot of FLW guys figured that out last year the hard way. Is you're just not going to go and make the elites. It doesn't happen like that in a very, 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 very few instances. But, like, you got to go in it with the right mindset that you're going to learn, that you just love to do it, and you're doing it because you love to do it.
Yeah.
John just came with another really good question. If the boater is using forward sonar and fishing brush, is the co-angler co-screwed? I'm going to say no, because we already kind of touched on it before. There's all kinds of other stuff out there. There might be a brush pile that pro is fishing, but there could be a brush pile 10 feet off the side of the boat that pro missed, or he already fished and moved on and didn't catch anything. Because I don't know how those southern fisheries set up, but I assume there's brush a lot. If there's brush in one spot, there's probably some more in that general vicinity. And if you cast around, you might hit a shell bar in like a pile of muck, and all of a sudden, oh, there's a big one right on that shell bar. So you can't go into it once again with a negative attitude, because if you're like, your pro tells you you're doing this, if you fan cast around, you have this 270-degree angle cone you can almost fish behind the boat and cast around to find that hard bottom or structure that those fish could be related to. You technically almost have more room to cast than the pro does, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you have a ton of fishing water.
That's a positive mindset. Mm-hmm. Take out of it. Oh, well, I'm stuck in the back. I'm only fishing this back half of the boat, and he's getting first crack at everything. Well, I've got all kinds of water behind me to fish. That's positive.
He's fishing 10% of that 360 degrees around the boat.
He can't find everything. He doesn't know every pattern going on. There's something else that I can figure out.
Mm-hmm. He could be drop shotting a brush pile, and you throw a football jig off the back and hit a hard spot, you might catch a fish.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's see. Independent angler. I've heard actually an idea about this floating around. I think Mark Jeffries was talking about it on PTL. They're saying every so many years a pro should even go as a co. They were talking about it, and
great point.
they've been talking about a like a TV series where they pair, like they draw 2 random winners, so they call them winners, and basically pair them with pros, and they put these winners out, like the fans at the front of the boat, and have the pros at the back of the boat, and basically as a coach, not really a co-angler, but as a coach.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of like something interesting, but that's what made me think of that. But that would be cool. Where do you think that could be advantageous for, say, someone like yourself who's been on the front of the boat for so long to hop in the back?
Dude, for me, because a lot of guys would absolutely hate it, but the guys that were co-anglers at some point, like myself for a long time, I wouldn't mind it, because there's still a lot of places I've never been that it would help me learn something, and help my fishing, and then hopefully the way I'm approaching it would even teach them something. But the truth of the matter is, like, I was thinking about it the other day, I was like, man, being a co-angler was awesome. Like, I really enjoyed that aspect of my career, and I would not change that. That was like the route that helped me get to where I'm at. And like, that was when I figured it out, that's what I saw doing so, and it did, and it's done it for a lot of other people too that are in the elites and the MLF and the FLW and stuff. So like, I wouldn't change that for anything, and I would do it. Like, I would totally be a co-angler. I think it's frowned upon now, because it would just be fun. Like, literally, how much more fun would it be sometimes to just literally just show up? And I love fishing team tournaments, especially if I'm in someone's boat. Well, I mean, I like doing my boat too because I have my way of doing things, but to go in someone else's boat is just fun. Like, you're just hanging out. You just bring a couple rods and go, and they're the ones, having to worry about, putting gas in the boat and doing all the other stuff. Like, once in a while, that would be cool, and I enjoy that. Like, when I get to go fishing with my friends on their boats, I'm like, this is awesome.
As long as there's chicken wings afterwards.
As long as there's chicken wings. And they know, and then they're putting us on fish too.
Yeah. That was
is in here as well, and he mentioned a great point. And he said, if you're in fishing in general for the money, you're in it for the wrong reason. That's a great point. It's like, there's maybe a 1% that make you a lot of money.
Wow. Yeah,
you're in it for the love of the sport, and that is the one and sole reason you're doing it. Another
slightly
question.
Slightly off topic. Sorry, here, Bailey. I don't mean to cut you
you're
off.
good.
It's almost like once you get to the pro level, instead of fishing for the money, you're more marketing than you are fishing, because you have all these companies that are supporting you and you're representing them for advertising, right? So you're like a driving billboard for them, basically. So once you make it to a certain level, you almost have to have more of a marketing side, and you have to back it up by catching fish and making it to day 3 and 4 because of that live aspect now. I know it's on a co-angler side, but
yeah. But I mean, just to kind of real quick on that, we were listening to a BTL episode on the way down here, and Frank Scalish said, no guy goes to a sponsor and says, "Hey, you should sponsor me because I can catch
fish." Right?
Yeah, you don't sponsor people just because they can catch fish.
That's not valuable. I mean, it is, but it is not the main value to a sponsor.
Forrest is in the chat. Poor Destin having to fish with it. It's true.
Don't worry, he didn't catch any of my fish today.
Let's see.
Catch up. Only thing worse there might be fishing with me because I'm a mess every time. So,
I love fishing with both of you guys. I do.
Let's see. Yeah, well, dude, just a total sidebar today. How many we quoted Greg Hackney's sexy quote like 40 times today. Like, we get like some random moment of silence and we're like, "Sexy, stand down." Like, from that quote, dude, it was fun. But yeah, if you guys have more co-angler questions, keep piling them in. We're gonna go on a little sidebar here because my buddy Alex Coral is in here and he has a really good question for you. And you already got it up. Let's see. Maybe you're not on this topic, but curious to know how your practice style varies between a tour fishery that you may not be as familiar with as opposed to a local derb on familiar water.
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah,
off topic, I'm giving Alex a bag of coffee because that's an awesome question. So,
I'll shoot Alex a text after this, and we'll get some sent out to him. I'm sure he'd appreciate it.
So a tour fishery versus preparing for a local derb. Well, the last local derb I fished was with Andy, and we didn't practice. We just went and fished. And it ended up being pretty good. I think, honestly, I'm going to tell you the truth. If it's somewhere that you know, that's honestly the best thing to do many times. Because if you have a general understanding of the fishery, like practicing can sometimes hurt you. And you'll see like places where you have a lot of knowledge too. If you practice too much or you're just thinking of what happened this time or that time, it'll hurt you. Like guys that are locals can struggle at their own fishery at a tour event. I mean, it happens all the time. But like how I would approach a tour event versus a local tournament was, yeah, I mean, I got to go do my job and practice and pre-fish and do all that work for a tour event. When I've put in more work for a local tournament, I seem to not do as good. I would say the less I practice,
overthink.
Yeah, exactly. I've got too much stuff. In a place that I've never been, like Santee Cooper or whatever that, I don't know. I need to go spend some time and experience the whole lake and get the scope of everything and like what fits my style of fishing. So like at Santee, I just wanted to fish shallow and power fish. I know the upper portion of Lake Marion is where a lot of guys have done really well up in the swamp area and all that. So I was like, okay, I'll start practicing there. The first day I went there, I got a lot of bites. I was like, well, I'm staying up here and I'm going to fish here the whole tournament. So I just found more stuff within there, found more patterns, and just figured out how I like to fish, how to catch them the way that I like to fish and what sets up. I was casting at cypress trees, which I mean, I've never done that. But as far as like that kind of fishing, but just being able to visually target things and up in a river section, so you've got current and all that, that was kind of what I was comfortable with. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing when you're practicing for a tour event, and especially a place you've never been, you want to take a lake, and to me is dialing it in, just experiencing the whole lake, seeing what you like to fish within that lake and developing a pattern that's comfortable to you and suits your styles well. I think a lot of people fall into this, and I'm no better because I've done it too. Okay, so you go in there, you got a clear lake, you got to throw a giant swim bait or whatever like that. There's so many more ways to catch them there, and there's a lot of guys going with a fresh mind. So you had the Harris Chain Open last week. The top two guys were from like up north. And the Harris Chain is a fishery that a lot of those Harris Chain guys struggled in that tournament. And the reason being, they all did what they thought they've done for 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years. Okay? What happened was it changed. So those guys didn't know all that stuff. They just came in and fished with an open mind and figured it out what was happening right then. And that's really the best thing you can do. And sometimes it is a benefit to not know as much about a fishery in certain situations. Most of the time that's not true, but there is certain situations like the Harris Chain Open. And it was just a good example because it was recent.
Yeah. And kind of like how you mentioned, which we actually talked about today too, is not trying to spread yourself out so much that you spend more time running and going around to different places than you do actually fishing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Really good point.
I mean, that's what I did at Fork. I've never been to this lake last year. I was like, I like to fish this section. I got some bites in this section. It sets up for it. And I just fished a section and just kept going through. And if I felt like I need, all right, I got to go here because I feel like I can get a bite here, and I'd go back there. Even if it was 10 miles away, I'd go back there. That was my section, and that's what I was comfortable fishing. And that's kind of what we started today, was an area that I was comfortable in, just finding more within that area and learning more about it and understanding more about it.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point.
Yeah,
good question, Coral. That was
a great question.
A really good tangent.
Thank you for that.
So, Warren Beard, is there any baits you wouldn't use as a co-angler? A-rigs, because they're illegal?
In most of the I think the Toyotas and the BFLs you can still throw A-rigs, but the Opens you cannot for sure.
Banjo minnow.
I think Zach Hall mentioned banjo minnow a while back in the comments. A funny, but yet honestly somewhat serious question from Logan Sullivan. Do you think there'll ever be a time when co-anglers start bringing a portable live scope?
Wow, that is very interesting
They're
question.
going to make co-angler mounts for boats.
They're going to have co-angler rules that you cannot bring portable electronics because some dude's going to come and bring one of those and absolutely dominate a tournament.
Shameless sponsor plug here. You're going to have an amp battery with some PVC piping coming off of it, and then the live scope attached. He's going to stick it down by the motor in between the power pole. He's going to come right out the back. He's like, oh, brush pile fish, and you start whaling on them. That'd be crazy to think about, but
it would be, somebody's going to try it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised somebody has not tried it because you can do that portable setup. For ice fishing, a lot of guys do it with amp batteries and stuff, obviously, to ice fish with. You could definitely do something like that. I don't think there's a rule against it.
Could you imagine him just
We're breaking barriers right now.
Could you imagine that? That
would be
cool.
insane.
Let's see.
People will push the boundaries.
Oh, yeah. If it's not safe,
that's what gray areas are for. If it's not in the rules, I mean, obviously you can do it. So why wouldn't you take advantage of everything that is humanly disposal to you, I guess is the way I could put that. Like, use everything in your disposal that you can get away with.
Yeah.
Especially if it's helping you.
Yeah, gamesmanship 100%. This can actually kind of spark something here. Mark Hurtlane, I apologize if I butchered that.
Good guy,
yeah, he had mentioned how, being a boater most of his life, he went to the co-angler side, really enjoyed it, way less pressure, money, prep time involved. Also had plenty of boaters offering to have him practice with them, which leads me to a question for you. If you are a co-angler and you don't have somebody, you want to go, say like you went to go fish the Central Opens, you didn't have somebody, I don't know if you did or not, have somebody to practice with. If you don't, how do you prepare for that?
So the first year I did it, I'd never fished a bass tournament in my life, and I knew no one. So I graduated college. I signed up for the Opens. The next month, I went down to James River, which I knew nothing about. And I stayed by myself in a cheap hotel. And I did that for a year and a half until I started to get in and know people and get people to practice with. So, I mean, that's the route that I did, and you could do that. I mean, I slept in my car some of the times too. Maybe I'd get a boater and be like, hey, I'm sitting at this campground. You can just park over here and I'd sleep in my car or something like that. Or in the parking lot at the boat ramp.
That's dedication right there. Yeah, a quick shout to there was a show kind of like that. Austin Wilson, buddy out over in California, who was
I know who he is.
What was it? The FLW.
Yeah, the Living the Dream, the TBF.
They did an episode of him sleeping in his boat for every tournament.
That's crazy.
Dude was hardcore.
That is hardcore.
Which now he's killing it. There's the Wild West Bass Tour. It's called Apex. It's like 30 anglers. Pays out $30,000 each event. No, that's what they're part of.
It's pretty impressive.
Like, yeah.
It's a good
Andy, you beat me to that comment. But yeah, Charles had quickly brought up Queen Tackle. And, dude, yeah, like guys, what we mentioned before, you guys can use our code to get 20% off. But like, for real, that it's super innovative. There's big news on that coming, and it's gonna be pretty sweet to see what can come from it. So just stay tuned for that. It's about as much as I can talk about. Let's see.
Another thing, I guess we have to call Mark Hurtline Butterbean from now on, like Scott. That's kind of funny.
Wait, what? I feel like I missed.
You have to call me Nighthawk.
So, Mark Hurtline's nickname, apparently by Scott Kalin, is Butterbean. They're good buddies and both local guys. I think Mark is on like Sodas Bay, and obviously Scott Kalin is one of the guys that run the the Safe Harbor Tour, like the Wednesday night tournaments, but now is like Sun Life Marina. So they changed the name of that place, but good people.
He goes long
story.
Let's see. There was one up here. Here's a good one. John Welsh. Dude, John's pumping some really good questions too tonight. What are the rules about local knowledge getting info from others? Is it different for different tours?
Yes, it is. Elite Series, none. Absolutely zero. The only reason Bailey can even fish with me is because he knows absolutely nothing about fork, and I already asked my tournament director, and I told him, don't say anything. Even if you have an idea, don't tell me. We're just out fishing.
And I'm not allowed to get info either from anybody. I've had to tell buddies because I'm at Fork, like, dude, don't talk about Fork. Don't send me anything, that sort of deal. They take it very seriously from that sort of playing field. But I think on terms of like the Opens and like Toyota Series, I think it's kind of free reign, right?
For the most part. So I think the Toyota Series is. The Toyota Series National Championship, there's like an off-limits period. And then once it's official practice, you can only talk to other guys in the tournament, I believe. The Opens, there was an official practice period, which is the week of, and you can only talk to other guys in the tournament. Which in the Elite Series, we can talk to each other, but not anyone else that's not in the tournament.
As soon as that schedule's announced, can't have any sort of.
And I think MLF, they can't even talk to other guys competing in the tournament. I would find that hard to believe that can't happen. Like, I don't know how you could even function without even talking to other guys.
Probably a lot of guys slipping up. Yeah,
I mean, I don't even.
It's almost impossible. Camera was unplugged.
Oh, my bad.
No, it's okay. Andy, can you hear?
Hey, did it work again?
I hear you, and it's kind of funny too because you have like a little white circle with the human emoji face type deal, and when you talk, it, like spits out like this random gray around.
All right, my bad. That was me.
No, it's okay.
So it amplifies your audio level the way you were talking.
Here we go. We're good.
The MLF or FLW Pro Circuit, to my understanding, I don't know if they've changed the rules, but they used to be able to get any kind of info they wanted up until the month before cutoff, or a couple weeks. Maybe it was 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks before the tournament. So they could talk to anybody they wanted before that period of time. And then within that period, they can't, but they can talk to other anglers that are competing in the tournaments.
That's a good point too. Oh, there's a good one from Coral, dropping another good one. There you go, Andy. Yeah, what's the sneakiest ways to grab power to charge the boat when you're roughing it?
Oh my gosh.
We should call up Austin Wilson right now and ask him what he did.
So when I was a co-angler, I used to travel with a few guys that are now on the Elites and FLW and all that stuff. And there was many times where, I can't say many times, but there was times where they'd park just in a hotel parking lot and just plug in, and we'd sleep in the truck or the boat, like that kind of stuff. They used to do, like Ike Canelli talked about it, he used to plug in like in a Walmart parking lot. But now I think they cover all the outlets, so you can't do that. But that's what a lot of people used to do. They just park in like a Walmart parking lot or park in a hotel parking lot when there's a bunch of cars and trucks and boats, so like nobody would know any different. That's what a lot of guys did.
Oh, man.
Smart.
And that's something I'm kind of interested to see what happens, because I've told Andy, is like, I'm going to be car camping this year.
Yeah.
I've decked out my Nissan Altima to rough it in the car, which is cool because Amp just hooked me up with a battery where I can literally charge my laptop and my phone for like 2 weeks straight.
That's pretty sweet.
So it's a way for if I can get comfortable and sleep out of it, which I've done it before. Jeff Hippert, if he's still in here, we both slept out of our vehicles for a Lake Ontario tournament. And so like I can sleep out, it's fine, but the amp battery is pretty crucial. So I think the power is probably like the most difficult thing when it comes to.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%. So amped, obviously, amazing batteries. I want to get one of those. That sounds awesome.
Battery box.
Yeah, for sure. I want to get one of those. But yeah, Jeff's a dude. We used to sleep in our own trucks, like pull up in a campground for $20 and just sleep in the truck and boat. That's all you had. Like you just slept in your truck. Like we do that sometimes because it was much cheaper too.
When you fish in college, we'd find empty campsites or public
plug-ins
on the ramp. Just go rough it in a hotel parking lot and just hope for the best.
That's exactly right. So they kick you out.
Place too is Walmart. Some of the light poles will have plug-ins on them at Walmart.
Oh, you didn't hear that? Because that's what I was saying.
That what you mentioned?
Yeah, what I was saying.
Got it. My bad.
But, some other angler, I think it was Ike Canelli, did that. He talked about it in his book, but I don't think they cover up most of those outlets now, and I think it's because guys did that, and people sit there in their RVs and camp in the Walmart parking lots and plug in and stuff. And I think they were like, "Oh, I'm sick of this. We're not doing that anymore. Like, we're not letting these people sleep in our parking lots with their RVs plugged in."
The deal.
The deal, Jeff.
Jeff made like a 5-star bed in the back of his F-250.
Jeff is he's the Duke of everything.
Jeff, by the way, Jeff is the most interesting man in bass fishing.
He will be on the show, and it'll be the most interesting show you'll ever watch on YouTube.
I was just enlightening Bailey to even some more interesting Jeff things.
Like,
I love Jeff's stories. They literally are the best. I think Jeff might be like my favorite person to fish with because just you never know what's going to happen.
I'm all
No,
set.
you don't. Wild card.
A good question for you from Scott. With every major company having some sort of live scope sonar, do you see yourselves going to a 3-unit system?
Do I see myself or everyone?
Like everybody going to a 3-unit system, and what are you doing?
Yeah,
personally
I
at the
do.
moment?
Yes, I already do.
Nice.
So
We got John Welsh asking if you drink coffee.
No,
He does not drink coffee.
sorry.
I don't know how because I live off of coffee, and this dude travels all over the place and doesn't drink. You don't drink any caffeine at all, right?
Yeah, so I try not to. Once in a blue moon, I'll have iced tea.
Arnold Palmer alert type
Yes,
deal.
Palmer's.
I have to admit, I was bad with caffeine this past week, and I was pretty bad with it. But I was telling Destin, if I'm having trouble waking up, I'll do my method for like when ice out for going out to fish. All I'll do is just walk down to the ramp, grab one, and splash my face. Like, you're awake after that.
Said, who needs coffee? when
You
you
know
do that?
you can't wake up to get amped to go fishing. Like I could
Well,
be
you
going
do, but
on
like
fishing.
if you're on like an editing grind or something like
Yes.
that, and you're up all night, dude, you might be pumped like inside, but you're also like dragging your feet still. So that 40-degree water definitely gets the blood pumping.
I know Sean Perkins isn't in here tonight because I haven't seen him question at all. But I used to have like a no-knock rule at his house when I first became a co-angler, like, I think 11 years ago. Because he still is one of my best friends, but back then he was like my best friend that him and his dad taught me everything I know about fishing for the most part. And I literally would work from like 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day at Delta Sonic washing cars as a manager and flipping burgers at Burger King at night just to make a living.
Where
And
my
I
wife
would-
goes to Sonic, Delta Sonic too.
Is that where they have like
Yeah.
roller blades?
No.
No, it's
I
not,
think-
it's not Sonic. It's a car wash. Delta
It's a
Sonic.
car wash.
It's a New York thing.
I had like a no-knock rule at their house. So I would go home, shower after work because I smelled like disgusting grease trap. And I would literally just like fall asleep on their couch for 45 minutes or a half hour for a tournament, get up, go fish the tournament wherever it was, right in the back seat, not even sleep the way there because I'd be amped, albeit I would sleep on the way home. And then sometimes I would go to work that night. Like I could always get up and go fishing no matter what the situation is. So
Oh, yes, you can.
PBR coffee. It's what's for breakfast. 4%
Oh,
alcohol.
my gosh.
guaranteed it was before 8 a.m.
Good grief. All right. So one more topic I think we're going to hit tonight, and then we are going to sign off here, which I think is good to bring up because I think it floats around now and then, but nobody really talks about it. Charles Blood said, my wife just asked if there's any special tips for female anglers to get a foot up in a derb. And I know this is it seems to be a sensitive topic for people, but I don't think there's anything different whatsoever for female anglers. Fishing is a common ground for people. If you can catch them, you can catch them. And that's pretty much that's all it is. It's just a fact. If you can catch them, you can be successful. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, whatever. I mean, Christine Fisher from a kayak rental things, she beats up on a lot of dudes. So it does not matter. Does not matter. So
I fished with, when I was a co-angler, I fished with a woman. Her name is Christiana Bradley. We're still friends to this day. She made the top 10 at Douglas. I think she might have been the first woman to ever make a top 5 in an open. She was a grinder and a really good fisherman. And we're still good friends. Like, I never really seen that side of like a woman fishing, and like she is just as good as anybody.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's all about
I truly believe that
passion, and if you're as interested and willing to put in the time that.
And she had a ton of success, like on the women's trail and stuff. Like she's a really, really good angler.
Yeah. Didn't I'm trying to remember her name. I think her name's Amy. Won like a BFL regional or not regional. Maybe it's I don't know. She won a Phoenix.
co-angler.
Oh yeah. Gosh, dang it, Melinda Mize.
Yes, yes. She won a Phoenix. I can't remember what the tournament was. I think it was
a BFL, or a regional or something like that.
Whatever it was.
Well, it would be a BFL or a BFL regional is what I was saying.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to if you want it bad enough, doesn't matter. Everyone's same platform. You're just fishing for 5 fish, and fish don't judge.
But I guess his question was also, how would she get a leg up? So I don't know if we necessarily answered that.
I think my point is I don't think there is a way for her to get a leg up because it's just fishing, and it doesn't really. It's not like
I would say. How could she get a leg up, or maybe a foot in the door? Maybe you just meant like a foot in the door within the industry.
I guess maybe it's joining a local club.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I don't have the greatest advice for getting into something like that on the foot up because I'm just getting my foot in the door, so I'm still learning. I'm in the beginning of the learning curve at this moment. So I think somebody like Andrew or Destin obviously would have better advice for that. But I think getting a foot up, I don't know.
I don't know if there really is like a way for a female angler to get like an advantage, let's call it, to get into it besides doing the same thing that we all do, is just grind and
marketing wise
niche and figure out
marketing wise there is an advantage.
Yeah. What was that?
I said marketing wise there is an advantage.
Oh, absolutely.
There's way more men and less women, so you can use that to an advantage. And that would be something that you could use to an advantage because there's less exposures for that group of people. So I would maybe focusing on that too, like understanding that you can use that to your advantage to some extent.
Yeah.
And that's going to help you get, a foot in the door and help you get into it. And hopefully, and like we were talking about, sponsorships are so important. Making money in fishing, it can't be like, you can't expect to just go out and make a bunch of money. But if you can work the marketing side of it really well, you can have a career.
Yeah.
Now, that would be something to also think about big time, is how to specifically market yourself, knowing that you're a subset, like you're a smaller portion of that group of that community of anglers that you can market to on a wider scale.
It's a really good point.
So I guess his question was a foot up in a derb, right? So I guess it would just define like a 3 to 5 baits that, Charles, that your wife has ultimate confidence in, and when if she gets drawn with somebody else, to stick with that and don't follow what their boater is doing, and just really stick to what her strengths are as a fisherman, and she'll be much better off. And I think that's a good foot up for just about anybody, is stick to what you have confidence in, as opposed to following dock talk or trends or whatever your boater is doing.
Yeah, he mentioned another comment too, is like she needs more confidence in herself, and I think this goes to everybody. And something I've even admitted, and Destin and I have talked about on driving down here, is like getting over, and it could potentially be the same case too, is getting over the hump of fear of failure, because that was one of my things for certain tournaments, is just being scared of doing bad, when you probably learn a lot more from doing bad than you do from a win. So something like that is just try to overcome an obstacle of freeing your mind when it comes to a tournament setting, and being like, okay, if I suck, I suck, but I'm going to learn from it, and it's going to better me. Like, no one's going to care if you suck. If they do, then they're not the people you have to worry about beating. So I think that's the best way we can answer that question.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything to add.
Yeah.
Since we've already talked about it.
Right. But I think, Andy, do you have anything left for the folks? Destin, do you have anything left for the folks before we sign off here tonight?
No, I think we answered a lot of the questions.
There's a lot of really good questions. Yeah. Really good questions.
So I guess
I've been impressed, guys, so thank you for all those great questions.
Yeah.
Let's say if anybody has any last minute questions here before we do sign off, to get them in before we hit the road here.
And if you know, obviously, if you're watching this afterwards and you don't like, obviously you're not live and you want to get questions in, Destin's really good with his social media. We're really good with our social media, and he is willing to answer. Like, if you have any questions for him, feel free to reach out. Same to the both of us. Anytime, just reach out, especially pertaining to anything, really anything fishing. But obviously, you know, the business side of things, getting through the industry, if that's something you're looking to get into, this guy right here is going to know a lot about it and can really help you out. So, yeah, yeah. But I think that's going to do it for tonight. As always, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Really good questions tonight, so we really appreciate you guys tuning in. And,
thank you, everyone, and thank you, Destin, for joining us in your business.
Thank you, Captain.
And I'm sorry you're traveling with Bailey.
I'm sorry for him too. But it sounds like on Wednesday, who we're gonna have on is Mr. Steve Mui, and Steve's a buddy of ours. Steve's been on the show prior, a long time ago, in the early stages. So we're gonna get him on as well. And Andy, what is our topic for Wednesday? If you want to tell the folks.
I believe it is staying confident and believing in yourself and not getting too negative when you have a bad practice or in just general tournament. So it's almost like this was almost like a prelude into it. Like, it's just a continuation of confidence. Okay. So I guess we could call it Confidence Week.
Yeah. Tournament mental positive attitude, however you want. Yeah. But then obviously, you know, Destin can pop in on that one if he wants to. He's more than welcome. And then Friday's show will be the Pickwick Lake preview, which we can't do around Destin for that one. So we're gonna figure out
Taku.
Yeah, we're gonna go next door, talk to Taku, and then we're gonna get it.
Heard him come back.
No, we're Friday show will be the Pickwick Lake preview show. We're looking forward to that one on Friday. But I think that's gonna do it for tonight. John, thank you. I hope we do stick him in Texas. Destin started. I have yet to start sticking, but we'll figure it out. Either way, as always, folks, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.